But let's start with the first one, being recognizable and distinct, standing out from your competitors, because the brain does not like to remember things that it thinks are the same. And this is the first major mistake, if you will, of marketers, is not finding ways to make yourself distinguishable. And I don't just mean in terms of, hey, we got to stick our logo on screen, right, David?
Yeah, it's more complicated than that, as we'll talk about. But basically, this comes down to recognizing that it's you. Clearly, that's one of the most important factors that needs to be involved as the first step of engaging with your customer. And it actually maps onto memory science really well. When we think about the two different types of memory, implicit memory and explicit memory, the strong role of just recognizing that the brand exists and is there plays really strongly into the notion of implicit memory, which is how we learn about a lot of things in the environment. And it's a major influence in our behavior and how we go about the world.
Now, an easy way to think about implicit versus explicit memory is, hey, I know that thing. Explicit memory is being able to verbalize it. That's when we know something so well that we can translate it into language and describe about it. So you may see the gecko and immediately go, oh, I know that thing. But the explicit memory would be able to tell me something about the gecko. And getting to that slogan of 15 minutes will save you 15%.
Yeah, and implicit memory is a larger majority of how we process information in the environment. And we've come to this conclusion in the world of marketing separately on our own in noticing that in this study, which looked at over 5,000 advertisements from the Effie Awards from Mark Ritson, these factors from 1 through 10, coming in at number 3 was codes, which is the same as saying distinctive brand assets, or the same as saying brand assets or brand elements. We mean the same thing. It is those unique qualities that visually and instantly make you recognizable to people. That's how powerful they are.
How do you stand out? And that's a really great way of thinking about this. And there are a lot of components of this, and it is not merely a logo or even a tagline, but lots of subcomponents. Now, KFC does an exceptional job of having lots of brand elements that they've defined their brand around. So it's not just the term KFC or even finger licking good, but they have the distinctive red, the buckets, the Colonel, the bow tie, his white suit, and many other elements. And you see this in their marketing as they work to expand those elements, to expand the mental space that they own. Now, as soon as you see someone that looks vaguely like a Colonel, you immediately think, hey, that's KFC. To the point now, if someone wears a white suit, chances are you're going to give them a KFC joke because they've defined that as a brand element. And what we find is that these brand elements, these codes, to use a memory science mnemonic, are unbelievably effective.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot to wear my white suit today. I have to dust it off. Now, if I could sit in a meeting of the strategy behind this advertisement from the company perspective or the brand perspective, it's clear that the goal of this commercial for Major Melon that appeared on the Super Bowl was to build these distinctive brand assets. You can see them everywhere in this ad. So let's take a look and see how that goes.
Be the first to count and tweet the exact number of Mountain Dew Major Melon bottles shown in this commercial, and you could win $1 million.
You know, I'd love to go through this ad with more time and point out all the different memory devices they are leveraging, all the codes that they are putting in here, because there are a lot of them, everything from celebrities to colors and audio and lots of product and logos. But it may be easier to cover off on some of the ones that are particularly effective.
Yeah, this is looking at the likelihood of remembering branded attention. And what happens is that when you use these more complicated elements, like the colors and these more subtle things that get in that implicit memory, you have much more effective branded attention shown on the right than if you just use the mention of the company name or the company logo.
And we see that a lot. We see companies that have something funny, then at the very end, they're like, oh, by the way, here we are. And they forget to integrate those elements throughout the spot. So we've got a great example here where there are lots of those branded elements that you can see that bake in to lead to strong recall. This is from our friends at Physicians Mutual.
If Physicians Mutual were a friend of yours, we'd be like Eddie here, loyal, dependable, and always there for you. We'd be the one you'd talk to about retirement, the complexities of Medicare, and the coverage you'd need. We'd listen and give you straightforward answers. Think of us as your devoted retirement friend. At Physicians Mutual, we'll help you find the coverage you need so you can have the retirement you deserve. Oh, good boy.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
Lots of codes baked into this spot. Audio mnemonics, visual, they have a celebrity, they've got a character with Eddie the dog, brand mentions, strong recall. And as we look at what is particularly effective, we see that there are certain things that are dramatically more effective. The ones that are visual, such as characters and celebrities, we already know can be particularly effective because they help us with our own memory structures. And you look at the very bottom of that list, it's logos. And that's the one that clients are always concerned about getting on screen, even though it is one of the least effective ways to help trigger long-term memory. Another piece that often gets overlooked are those sonic cues, the audio mnemonics. The jingles, if you will, and things that you can brand around that are the highest ranked way to trigger memory. Because remember, this goes back to the brain stores information in lots of different ways, and we want to trigger as many of those as possible to increase the likelihood that they do remember. And what we find is that advertisers in general are really poor about using these devices within their marketing. Now, they're really good about using logos, which was the least effective thing, and they become less effective at the particularly effective things, with only 6% of companies using sonic branded cues. Now, that helps explain why only 16% of ads get regular recall. And it's because we're not baking in a lot of the core elements, the codes that are particularly effective at allowing us to remember the ad.
This video is from our webinar series, and you can check out intermarkgroup.com/webinar to watch the full series. We're a full-service advertising agency that embeds a layer of behavioral science in our creative. And you can check out the information below to learn more about us and to contact us to help you solve your marketing challenges.